大怪盗アルセーヌ・ルパンが残した不思議な宝物ルパンコレクションがギャングラーに奪われた。失ったものを取り戻すために戦う怪盗、世界の平和を守るために戦う警察、君はどっちを応援する？
Hello, and welcome to LupinRecap versus PatReview, the podcast that's stirring up a storm. I am your host, Lokomasi, and with me is my co-host, Fefner Masamune.
Hello, how's it going? Loka's decided to be cruel for this introduction.
Yeah, let's just get right into the discussion question. Something I kind of want to keep track of over our time as we watch the show is how our opinions on it change. I'm going to have to be trying to remember how I felt while watching the episode, but Fefner can deal with the fresh wounds as I ask. Can you rank the 6 Rangers from your most favorite to least favorite? I will go first if it makes you feel better.
I mean, you could probably do it slightly faster than I could.
Yeah, I don't want this to be the whole episode, so I'm going to be a little scant on explanation. I think at the time I'd finished watching episode 5. I probably went immediately into episode 6, but my rankings probably would have been... Toma's my favorite, because he's sad. Tsukasa's my second favorite, because she's tired. Mika's my third favorite, because she's my daughter, and I must protect her. And then Kairi is fourth, because he hadn't really shown the things that would make me like him later. Same thing with Keitra, who was 5th.
Mm-hmm.
And then Saki was 6th because somebody had to be. I should point out, there is nothing against any of these characters. They're all good.
They are all
putting them in a ranking.
Equally precious.
They're all our children.
There is no Mineta here. Hours later, we will not say we don't care for any of these. Oh god, but alright, time
for the rest of this episode's runtime is you hem and haw.
Time to make the donuts. Oh god. Okay, so I guess it would mostly be like in order of sort of who's had a lot of development. So I think like the problem is Kairi has a decent amount of development this episode, but I think I might still place him the lowest.
That's fair.
And, oh god, I don't want to put Umika so low either, but she's great in a fight and she's super entertaining, but we haven't seen, like, her major hook yet. I've seen what I think are hints of it, but yeah, nothing concrete.
So you're counting up.
I think
Kairi is 6th and Umika is 5th?
I think so. See, this is where it gets tough. I guess next would be Kaiichiro. I love him. He's a good mad boy in that, like, he's not actually, like, that destructive or anything. Especially recently, like, he doesn't really take his anger out on specific people other than that one time. So that means him being mad about Ganglars and Phantom Thieves is entertaining. Because it's not harmful.
We see him, like, at his most ragey at the end of this episode, I think, and he doesn't hurt anyone except maybe company property.
Yeah, it's pretty much just himself. Where to go from here?
Who's your third favorite?
Maybe Tuma. He has had a lot of development, and I do really like him, because, like, he sort of switches back and forth between, like, being the level-headed one and the one who just wants to get this whole thing over with. There is a moment of hesitation from him in this episode, so, like, it's not one or the other all the time. He's got some good senses. It's just sometimes he is a little more mad.
He's a very interesting character dynamic within him. In that the must kill Ganglars sometimes rubs up against must stay alive in order to kill Ganglars.
Can't kill Ganglars if I'm dead. At least not yet. I'll figure that one out eventually.
We're getting to your second favorite, and there is a very real chance.
Oh my
that
god.
your favorite's going to be my least favorite.
Oh my god. Who do I place who's second? Uh, s- I love Sakuya's attitude. I like that he's super chipper. He's had some good development, and it looks like he has actually, stuck to it a little bit. Again, thing that happens later this episode, but he didn't really stick as the whole, like, don't. Wow, I've placed myself in a way I cannot grammatically phrase this correctly. He doesn't fuck up that much. Like, he actually does do really well.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh god, can I tie for first? Because Sukasa's also pretty good, and as we discussed last time, we found her major hook, and while it initially might seem like it's there more for just like jokes, because her whole thing is, hey, she likes stuffed animals. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's something a lot deeper than that there. All right, so I
I'll let you
guess.
tie. You can
Okay,
tie if
thank
you want.
goodness, because I was gonna say I could probably make the argument that Tsukasa would be number one, since she does have that complexity there. Whereas Sakuya, he's stuck to his development. That's good. I like that. But it's still fairly straightforward.
It's amazing. You've managed to put the Pot Rangers above most of the Lupin Rangers.
I know. Like, if we were going for aesthetic, then yeah,
Are you Team Pot Ranger, you fucking
No.
narc?
Absolutely not. Stylistically, I like the Lupin Rangers way better. And, just in general. Thieves, yeah, trust them more.
These are better than cops, yes.
But, yeah,
I need to think of a better word than narc, because I've used it twice now.
Narc is a fun word, though. But,
Also,
yeah.
I thought it was supposed to refer to narcotics, like someone in the narcotics division.
It does, technically, but, like, it gets used a lot. Now, that being said, if it were just a general list of characters, I could just have the excuse to slam dunk Kogure at the bottom. Don't trust that guy. Also,
he's the least trustworthy.
also, that's the other thing. The Pat Rangers actually get, like, trustworthy allies. They get Director Hilltop, and, I guess Jim Carter's
Carter.
also there. Jim tries his best.
It does a lot to change their dynamics, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Just having a boss they can rely on.
Yep, unlike Kogure. Can't rely on that guy, and he doesn't even boss them around.
It's part of the problem. He is not a part of their lives at all. Kogure is a deadbeat dad.
Alright, so now that you've subjected me to playing favorites, I guess we should start this, huh?
Yes, today's episode is Global Police in the Crosshairs. I think TV Nihon translated that as Global Police Targeted.
Targeted global police, but yeah, it's just...
Little Englishy.
Well, it's targeted, the global police.
That's right. I'd forgotten. I kind of prefer Global Police in the Crosshairs.
That does flow off the tongue a little bit more, and,
Yeah, and I think in the Crosshairs is a more common turn phrase.
Yeah. And it also wouldn't have required me to use colons twice in one sentence, because I do format that as episode 5, targeted, the global police. And man, that just does not look good. So anyway, enough about all of this fascinating information about the formatting of my notes.
Now Fefner can have fun recording this episode
So,
as she goes through the summary.
we open up on some alleyways in the city, where a man who is obviously today's Gangler does his best to look casual.
You know what's fucked up?
Huh.
I think he might be the most convincing Gangler, most convincing human so far.
Tied between him and the last guy.
I mean, he looks like a punk, but he still just looks like a human punk. It's not like Roulette Frog. Or I even think Labrum Jaws was pretty obviously a Gangler, just from his smile.
Had those shark teeth, he did. So, the Lupin Rangers have already tracked him down and watch him from a balcony. They drop his name, Bumdolt Peggy, and with a name like that, I'm at a loss for name puns. Arsene Penguin?
Armored Lupin.
Anyway, Tuma refers to Peggy as a serial robber and murderer, so keep in mind that this man has tasted blood. Despite your first impression, this Ganglar kills.
I don't know if Overtime translated like that. I don't remember that, but I do kind of zone out when they talk about the backstory for most Ganglars of the week, because it's always just, this isn't going to matter.
Yeah, other than Garato, it doesn't really matter, because he was the only one who took his work into his fights. And even then, that was only with a collection piece. Jeez, that guy didn't get it right. That wasn't his default power. Anyway, Tuma also drops that he's only good at running away, which Kyrie figures must be due to a collection piece. As their info card burns away, the three prepare to transform, only to stop in surprise as someone else teleports onto the scene. Wouldn't you know it, it's Destra. This is the first time the thieves have seen Destra, but this may be the first time that the audience notices a pretty important detail about our dear right hand. He has two safes, one on each shoulder.
Both of which are golden.
Yeah, so if you didn't get that he's pretty good and important, not even Gauche has a golden safe, or more than one.
I thought she did. I thought her safe was golden.
Oh, was it? Huh.
I'll put in a picture of it so we'll know which one of us is wrong.
Ah, yes, that person sure was wrong. Yep,
Wow,
look at
I
it
can't
right
believe
there.
That person was wrong.
I will
Also,
figure
speaking of not noticing things immediately, I didn't realize that the things spinning around that seem to generate the portal Dexter walks through are just bags of trash.
Yeah, like the way his portal opens, it just sort of scatters the trash bags around. It's super neat.
Yeah, but they spin around first, which gives the impression that they're making the portal. So now I'm questioning, are these trash or is this a cleverly hidden Ganglar portal?
I think it's just fancy effects, which I hope we see more of those in the future, because Gauche's are neat, but so's Destra's. I like his teleporting.
Bumble did have to go to that specific location to meet Destra.
Well, you have a meeting spot. You make it in an alley.
Yeah. I don't think we get an answer for this. I just like the idea of there being specific portals for some reason.
Created by trash.
Yes.
So, Kyrie is prepared to leap in and claim 3 treasures all at once, but Tuma, managing to be the rational one for once, suggests they stay back and watch. Destra gives Peggy a request, and Peggy swears he'll get it done. Destra teleports out, which places the garbage bags he dispersed from coming in back into place. Peggy then stretches for a moment and leaps out of the scene. The Phantom Thieves give chase, and we cut to Director Hilltop, who's transporting a very distinct briefcase. Peggy leaps in front of the car and transforms into a Ganglar form, and uses an energy slash to drive Hilltop's car off the road. Okay. You should, however, cut in an image of him transforming.
Yes.
That was extremely good. Hilltop's bodyguards fire at the Ganglar, but they're not wearing cool power armor, so Peggy just cuts them both down. Peggy breaks into the car and snatches the briefcase from Hilltop, after dragging him out first. Peggy opens the briefcase, and to the Phantom Thieves' surprise, there are 2 more collection pieces within it. The thieves Kaito...
I'm still disappointed Hilltop didn't get to shoot the Ganglar. Because it wouldn't have done anything, and it would have made him more badass.
The attempt is always appreciated. The thieves Kaito change and stop Peggy before he can make his escape. I'd also like to point out that they transform, confront him, and then they do the show-offy pose portion of the transformation scene. Peggy is confused, but he brandishes his sword anyway. His sword, which, by the way, is shaped like a fish. So while the 4 of them fight, Director Hilltop calls the Pat Rangers for support. Cut to the intro. Back in Hell, Gauche is teasing Destra about the deal he made, noting that the deal was made behind Dagranio's back. Destra insists that he would never betray the boss, but we don't get to learn what his actual motivation is yet because we cut back to the fight with Peggy.
Before we get away from that, Overtime Subs brings us more information.
Ooh.
Apparently Bumbolt was Destra's former henchman.
I think they also mention that in these subs as well.
I think it was a little oblique.
Okay, so it's more
But
just obvious then.
yeah, Ghosh mentions like, "Why are you going behind Degranio's back?" And at least I think Overtime adds the information of, "Why are you going behind Degranio's back for that person that used to work for you?"
Yeah, I remember.
Like, this is as
something
suspicious
like that.
as you've looked in years, Daystra.
So, Yellow manages to shoot the briefcase open, and Red snags one of the 2 collection pieces. But before the Lupin Rangers can continue pilfering everything Peggy's got, the police arrive on the scene. Red, now annoyed, throws a card over to Peggy, who sounds delighted and agrees to whatever the card proposed. The 4 all escape before the cops can even transform, and instead they run over to Director Hilltop to see if he's okay.
This might have been the most suspicious exit the Lupin Rangers have done. This 100% looks like they're cooperating with the Ganglars.
I mean, we'll see, they kind of are. But first,
Yeah.
back in the cafe, we learned that Red had given Peggy a time and place to meet to fight for the other collection piece without fear of interruption from the cops. Tumo wonders why the cops even had more collection pieces, and the 3 realize that maybe Kogure hasn't been entirely honest with them. No, how could that be?
He's so trustworthy, like how he never uses the door.
Yeah, he's just there when you least expect it. That's always comfortable. Love that. Thanks, Kogure.
He also doesn't eat, and instead subsisted entirely on hatred. I mean, magic.
Tea. He has a teacup. That's probably just normal tea. Back at the police HQ, Hilltop has explained the situation to the rest of the Pat Rangers. Director Hilltop had been transporting 2 Versus vehicles, a motorbike and a helicopter. According to him, these 2 vehicles could have the power to destroy the world if used incorrectly, which is really impressive for a couple of plastic kids' toys. Does
I don't
Overtime...
want to contradict you too much. No, this is an Overtime thing. I think he just means the Lupin collection as a whole.
Okay.
I don't think this one bike can drive through the center of the Earth, thus destroying it.
Okay.
I mean, to be fair, if it weren't for the other Versus vehicles, one VS vehicle probably could take over the world. It's like a superpower problem, where if like only one person has superpowers, as long as it's above some threshold, they can take over the world.
Yeah. Actually, come to think of it, I guess this is the first time the Pat Rangers have really learned what the collection is then. Because they've definitely heard, like, the Lupin Rangers say, "Hey, we're taking those collection pieces. Hey, Lupin collection, we want it." But, yeah, they haven't been briefed about what it actually is.
Which is also wild.
Yeah, Director Hilltop just brought in the Versus Changers one day and was like, "Hey, you get cool power armor from these."
Like, that I get because they were deploying in, like, they were already on their way to deploy. They didn't have time. But this has been, like, days later.
Days, maybe even weeks, perhaps.
Jim didn't have the PowerPoint done yet.
That
He's
was
working
really
on it.
important. Didn't have images of the helicopter and bike either, and he wanted to keep those in there. Gotta be complete. That's why Director Hilltop is a good boss.
He sends his subordinates out with incomplete information.
So, naturally, the 3 Rangers all look pretty concerned, and they vow to get those vehicles back. Hilltop, however, doesn't seem too concerned with finding Peggy. And at last, we cut back to the conversation between Destra and Ghosh. Ghosh repeats what Destra had probably said off-screen. The human and Ganglar collection pieces are different. She remarks how they are supposed to be part of the same collection, but Destra has no answer to that. He's merely concerned about the situation. And in a rare moment of near respect between the 2, Ghosh actually understands Destra's motivation, and is at the very least impressed with his planning.
Seems really weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it's neat. They don't hate each other for like 10 whole seconds. It's wild.
It makes me wonder, like, why Destra decided to open up to Gauche to begin with.
Yeah, she would probably be the worst person to open up to, but
Was he worried that Degranio would believe her over him if she went to Degranio?
Maybe?
Was he just trying to keep her quiet?
I don't know. Like, maybe he just doesn't want to give Degranio, like, any of this information if it's not complete for reasons unknown. Gotta give the full story, otherwise shouldn't go to the boss. I'm not in a gang, I don't understand it. So we cut to a warehouse where Peggy's ranting and raving about how he's gonna beat up those phantom thieves. He hears a noise and assumes it's Red coming to fight him for the collection piece. It's not. It's the cops. There was a tracker in the briefcase, which he should have expected from the start, but he's Peggy, so he didn't. The cops do their kaisatsu change thing, and they're ready to fight. Peggy decides that it's that time of episode and summons the Podamen, who pin the Pat Rangers behind some crates. Ichigo thinks fast and throws a box towards the Ganglars, and Nigu gets in a really good shot on it. It explodes, throwing the mooks off. It is a really good shot, and that's what I was alluding to earlier.
Yep. Sakia is a crack shot.
I also think it's kind of neat how, like, this fight plays out a little bit differently than, like, it usually does with a Podamen. Because even the Pat Rangers have just had fights where they're just running around attacking all the mooks on the battlefield, but here they're actually behind cover for once.
Yeah. The way they get behind cover is neat, because they all do it in a slightly different way.
Yep. So yeah, it's got a bit of a different feel than other fight scenes, even with just, the Podamen. I'd also like to mention that it's pretty early in the episode for Podamen, but, just throwing that out there. So, anyway, the thieves arrive to a gunfight and figures that, if nothing else, the cops sprang the trap for them. They Kaito change and join the battle. Peggy's a little insulted the thieves would bring the cops in, but Red assures him they weren't part of the plan. Ichigo's mad at both of them, though, and he charges in. Against two Reds, Peggy loses his briefcase and is tossed aside. Ichigo then manages to word Red away long enough to claim the helicopter from the case. He then does the Zelda "you got an item" pose, and Nigu takes a little time out of his fight to congratulate the boss.
He does it with only one arm, which somehow makes it look even dumber.
I don't know. It's extremely good.
Oh, it's good. It's just also really dumb.
I don't know if it would count as out of character, because I wouldn't have immediately expected Kaiichiro to be the type to just get a thing and then just fucking thrust it up into the air and be like, yeah, I got it.
He's just happy to have a win for once.
He has been on quite the losing streak. Also, I do like Nigu just applauding him real quick.
Yeah, he's the type that gets better when he's praised, so he wants to praise everyone else too.
So, Red then challenges Ichigo to a duel for the collection pieces.
I guess Red just really wants to duel today.
Ichigo agrees, and Peggy figures it's high time to make his escape. The rest of the Rangers all book it after him as the leaders prepare to fight. Ichigo's mad that the Lupin Rangers are stealing from the cops, but Red points out that it all belongs to the Lupin family. They fight on pretty even ground for some time, but Red's ability and frequency of flips makes him superior. Oh, right, and I guess at one point he manages to slip out of Ichigo's sight, drops down to floor, then fires up through the floor, which takes both Ichigo by surprise and also breaks the floor beneath him, causing him to fall an entire story down. It's a good thing he's got that armor, because that would have ended the fight otherwise.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to talk a bit about their conversation that opens the stool, because I think it'd be a little hard to understand who we're supposed to believe, or what each side is even trying to say sometimes. Because, like you said, Keijiro says, you're stealing from the police, and then Red says, well, those belong to the Lupin family. And I want to ask, do they? How did they get to the police? The Ganglars stole from Lupin, but the police didn't steal from Lupin. And the police, there's no mention of the police confiscating them from the Ganglars. We need to come to the realization that maybe the Lupin family gave the police these vehicles. I don't want to say that's right or wrong, because I'm coming from a different perspective.
Yeah.
But it's really easy to go like when Red tells Keiichiro, well, you're just taking this from the Lupin, and then Keiichiro says, these are tools of justice, to see him as like saying, well, it's fine if we do it, but I don't think that's what he's trying to say.
Yeah.
I think he's trying to tell Kairi he's wrong, but doing it in kind of a weird way.
Yeah. I feel like, they could both potentially be right here. Because, it's part of the Lupin collection, but Kaiichiro doesn't necessarily know if, like, that makes it alright. Because, he got it, and he uses it because procedure. To be fair, the Lupin collection is from stuff that Lupin stole, so it's already stolen property to begin with, and
it is impossible to find out who owns this shit. This has changed hands illegally so many times.
So many times. So, like, really, I don't know, I don't think Kaiichiro necessarily has to care about the Lupin collection. Like,
really, it being confiscated by the state was inevitable.
Yeah. It has to be confiscated. And like before, it's clear he trusts the thieves with them more than he trusts the Ganglars with them. But he also has an understanding that he was given these things. There's a certain amount of trust in that. And therefore, he is going to fulfill that trust by not losing it and using it for justice.
But this conversation is also just like a microcosm of the show at this point. Just Red is being kind of cryptic, Ichigo is being kind of like boneheaded, not understanding, and so they can't work together even though they're both on the right side.
Yeah.
This whole divide is because no one wants to talk to each other.
So, at this point, Red's clearly in control of the fight. Even when they both have guns trained on one another, only one of them has fallen through a floor. Still, though, Ichigo decides to go for the ego this time, telling Red that he was on the wrong path the moment he decided to become a phantom thief. For a moment, Red is actually speechless. He flashes
Finally.
back... Oh.
Thank God.
He flashes back to the final moments of his brother and tells Ichigo that he became a phantom thief because he had no choice. He then proceeds to clothesline Ichigo through a wall, pummels him, and when Ichigo tries to get back up and fire, Red smacks his hand out of the way and shoots him right in the gut, and then kicks him down for good measure.
I want to talk about quite a few things in this scene because a lot happens in these 20 seconds where Red goes fucking ballistic. I'll probably come back to this at the discussion portion of the episode, but I think it's important to establish right now that both Reds really hurt each other with what they said.
Oh, yeah.
This isn't a case where, this is the first time where the Lupins aren't in total control.
Yep.
Which brings me to the point of that this is really the first time we've seen Red display any emotion. We've seen Kairi display emotion, but Lupin Red has always been a,
kind of sarcastic
collected jackass. Yeah.
Yeah, just...
he lost his shit.
Yeah.
He threw a man through a wall and then beat his head in. If he wasn't wearing that helmet, Keiichiro would be dead.
Yeah, super dead, 10 times over.
Also, I don't know if it's just people don't usually have multiple types of screams, but the way Kairi is screaming in the scene reminds me of his reaction to his brother's death.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he is just accidentally tapping into that well of emotion and it's not doing great with it, or if it's just a case of they asked Kairi's actor to scream and he did, and this is what he sounds like every time he screams.
This is my screaming voice. Ah.
It sounds like I'm about to cry all the time.
So, after that beatdown, Ichigo drops his usual versus vehicle, and Red moves to take that. Thinking quickly, Ichigo launches the helicopter, which emerges with an air horn. It is the Cyclone, and yes, that means the Pat Rangers are using an air vehicle for once, and it is clearly supposed to belong to the thieves, because you heard the air horn.
And it's a dial fighter. It has the dial. Why do the police need a safecracker?
Cyclone.
It also has the same solid, not primary color, but a solid bright color instead of being white with colored highlights.
Yeah, so Red is surprised, probably due to the fact that using a helicopter indoors is the last thing anyone would expect, and is unable to react in time to Ichigo grabbing his other vehicle and entering the Cyclone. So, Red decides to launch the motorcycle in response, and it emerges with a line, "Boundless Roaming." He's also inside the bike. It's like an actual covered vehicle, which I guess makes sense because the last thing you'd want in one of these Zords is exposure. Yellow Zord has a buzzsaw. Anyone riding the bike would die.
Think of the scale and how he wouldn't be able to reach the handles.
I know.
Also, there's already a person on it, so I guess they're just in the head of the person.
I want to see Kyrie ride the big bike.
Wow, I really stole the worst one. Could have taken any of them, but I took the one that's impossible to drive.
So, outside, the Rangers continue their battle, and of course, Peggy's having a bad day. Yellow acknowledges their upper hand and readies herself to crack the next safe. But the music stops, and the sound of airborne projectiles erupts onto the battlefield. Several missiles then come whizzing in, their paths completely erratic and unpredictable. Explosions blanket the warehouse exterior as all 4 Rangers are thrown to the ground. As Peggy rises back to standing, he shudders and turns around. As the smoke clears, Destra enters the scene. Destra chastises Peggy for all the fucking up he's done, to which Peggy can only grovel. Blue also gets a slight I told you so moment as his bad feeling from earlier was absolutely correct. He doesn't, rub it in Yellow's face or anything, but that's gotta be at least a little bit vindicating.
I think it was just to himself.
I know.
So that he could sleep at night knowing that he didn't actually delay bringing Aya back at all.
Haha, yes, I did it.
He would have died if he had charged Destra at that moment.
Combat genius, Tuma. So, Destra gives the group his name and title, and breaks into a run as he pushes Peggy aside. Destra's intro's proper terrifying, because up until this point, he does just, coolly walk onto the field. And then, the man with the big hammer, who launched several missiles, just breaks into a run.
I appreciate that he turned the hammer around from the missile end to the bashing end.
Yep. So, the Rangers try firing at him, but it's seemingly useless. Destra's hammer also causes explosions upon impact, which doesn't help.
I believe I mentioned in the last episode that power levels weren't really a thing. I would like to amend that. There are 2 power levels. Degranio, Destra, and Ghosh have a power level of 2, and everyone else has a power level of 1.
Yep. Yeah, there's a reason Destra's the right hand. He's very strong. So, seeing how Destra has things handled, Peggy decides it's time to flee. We then cut over to a shot of the highway. The bike races over the bend as the cyclone fires at it.
God, this shot looks so good.
It's so good. It's right at sunset.
They really destroy the, sense of the passage of time to get this shot, and I don't care at all.
They do kind of, jump around time periods a lot in this show, because I'm pretty sure I remember a few other of the episodes doing that, where it's it's day in one shot, and then, we cut away, it's a little later, that sort of thing.
I remember the 3rd episode being very jarring with it, because when they cut back, it's dark, but it's dark in the way that, someone is standing in front of the sun. And then suddenly it's night.
Yep.
But this goes from, what looks to be noon to sunset to darkness in, 5 seconds.
Yeah,
because the cinematographer was like, hey, this will look great.
Yep.
He was right.
He was right.
Right.
You don't need the lighting to transition. You just need it to be where it needs to be.
Oh god, this is reminding me of my favorite quote from a production staff member. This is from, I think, the 3rd Lord of the Rings movie. One of the actors had run up to, I guess, the cinematographer or light director and said, I just don't understand this scene. Where is the light coming from? And the guy responded with, the same place the music's coming from. Sometimes you just do what looks cool. And this does look really cool.
So,
speaking of looking cool.
Well, not so much, because Red is lamenting his choice of vehicles, and coincidentally, Ichigo's rubbing salt in the wound over his choice. It's not like they have a comm channel or anything. Ichigo just timed his disc perfectly. Good Striker then happens upon the chase, but he doesn't help. Red does the Akira thing, drives up a building, then leaps his bike through the air. However, the Cyclone dodges it by changing the position of its rotors. Red's not out of tricks yet, though. He fires one of the front wheels into the air, which catches the Cyclone. Back at the warehouse, the Rangers are still doing very badly against Destra.
They have been fighting him for hours.
Nigu almost pulls off something. I don't know what it would be, but he did grab Destra by the hand. A good first step, and one that gets Destra to call for Peggy's assistance. As he realizes Peggy's gone, he just casually reverses Nigu's grapple, then tosses him aside in anger over his dumb idiot's friend's inability to stay in one place. So, as it turns out of the 6 Rangers, there is precisely one who's doing well right now, and it's Red. His motorcycle spins the Cyclone around and tosses Ichigo right out of it. It then turns back to normal as Ichigo lands near the scene of Destra's fight. Red, in a moment of being a really bad teammate, drives off with both collection pieces in his possession. Granted, he doesn't know Destra's there, but he could at least check to make sure Yellow and Blue had escaped.
He knows Burnbolt's there. He's not anymore, but he should have gone in to check on that guy.
This is kind of that whole, we'll leave each other behind thing come into play a little bit, because Red accomplished his thing, therefore, he's got to assume the other two must have as well. I mean, it's only Peggy, what is he gonna do?
This episode needed more shots of Kairi talking about how great his day is going.
Well,
while cutting back to Blue and Yellow being thrown about by Destra.
It would have been a good day, except he did have a conversation with Ichigo. That didn't go well.
Except Keiichiro said one sentence to him, and now he's sad.
I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
So, at this point, Destra decides he's done here, and throws a grenade into the distance and creates a giant golem for the Kaiser fight. To retrieve the collection pieces. Good Striker wanders in just in time, and Sangu hands him over to Ichigo, who remains unresponsive for a moment. They activate their Zords and form the Pat Kaiser. The Golem, though fairly unremarkable normally, does have some edge against the Pat Rangers, as the group is pretty fatigued by this point. So, after some attempts at firing normal shots at the Golem, the Pat Rangers decide to move on to Bullet Strike. Golem explodes, and the Pat Rangers can go home and get some sleep.
This fight was a little weird.
Even Goody decides to be nice this time, and allows them to exit Kaiser form in their Zords instead of just dropping them from the sky.
I actually also have the note, Goody is really nice today. He says something like, "Way to go, heroes!"
Go and rest. Clearly,
also, we were having
Goody
connectivity issues, but I wanted to say about how this fight started. There is something really scary and intimidating about Pat Kaiser standing there in the dark of night, just pointing a gun at someone with the sirens on.
This is the arrest that everybody in town sees.
I don't think this is going to an arrest.
It's an arrest in a way.
It's cardiac arrest.
Cardiac explosion arrest, yes.
I guess cardiac arrest is a specific thing and not just every time your heart stops. If your heart explodes, it doesn't arrest, it explodes.
Completely different. So, back at the cafe, Tuma and Umika are patching up wounds, something we haven't seen any of the Rangers do up to this point. Kairi's surprised, Umika's terrified, and Tuma's being Tuma. But he congratulates Kairi on a job well done against the cops, and suggests that they get back to tracking down Peggy next time.
I heard you threw a cop through a wall. Nice.
God, Tuma would love that. That's the reason he's not mad at all. I mean, sure, we had to fight Destra and we almost died, but dang man, nice.
By the way, should anyone check in on Umika? No, I'm sure she's fine. She doesn't need emotional support or anything.
Yep, especially not from Kairi, who decides it's time to leave for the night because he has to brood. As it turns out, insulting him for being a phantom thief did actually hit a sore spot. Meanwhile, Keiichiro is also upset. Alone in the HQ, he throws off his jacket and slams a desk, swearing to pay Red back for their previous encounter. And we end off on just a shot of their two faces and the moon. Only one of them's actually looking at the moon, though. It's present in both scenes, but Kaichiro is
looking at
fuming
Keiichiro.
in a completely different direction.
It's a neat shot though, because it creates a slash across the screen.
Yep.
With their faces.
So yeah, that was episode 5. I guess before we get into the big stuff, would like to note that I thought this episode did some really cool things with the format, like a lot of the, usual fight stuff was out of the way with a bit earlier. Like I mentioned the Potamen coming out, a little bit earlier than they normally would in an episode because they weren't really the focus. However, while the format was mostly cool, it also did make the Kaiser fight feel like it was just running through the motions.
That fight it's so weird feeling. This Kaiser's so intimidating when it first shows up. It's legitimately a little scary.
Yeah.
But then it just sort of so they try and use that scene for character development with Keiichiro and how he can't focus and that this is literally the easiest fight in the world, but he can't keep it together.
Yeah. And that does get through. I did mention that all 3 of them are pretty tired by this point. The only reason they had any difficulty with just this generic-ass golem is they're just fucking tired. 2 of them have been beaten up by Destra. The other has been beaten up by a different ranger.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with the fight scene. It's just kind of weird.
Yeah, a little weird. A little bit boring, because like I said, it's just they fire some shots, Gollum attacks them, they decide to move on to the special, and they're done.
Yeah.
It is.
They shoot, it doesn't work. They shoot, it kind of works. They shoot, it's dead.
Yeah, so it is kind of just there because there needs to be a Kaiser fight in the episode.
We bought that rubber suit. We need to shoot that suit. We spent money on it.
Though I do like the idea that, Destra has his own way of creating big minions, so it's not just Ghosh's thing. Other people have the potential to do it. It'll probably still mostly be Ghosh, though.
Yeah, Ghosh is the most useful version of it.
Yeah, because she makes already, theoretically strong Ganglars even stronger.
And, Ganglers are dying every day.
Yeah.
Since Tigrania put out that challenge.
I say theoretically because, honestly, they are oftentimes chumps when it comes down to it.
Oh, yeah.
So, anyway, yeah, with that done, what are we talking about this post-summary episode
A couple
sentence?
of things. First, I just have the word conflict in all caps.
Yes. Underline that as well.
This is our first ideological conflict between the 2 teams. They've been fighting every single episode.
Oh yeah, can't stop them from fighting.
But this is the first time where they actually try and talk about why they're fighting.
Yep.
And it's kind of interesting how that makes everything worse,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
The moment they start talking about it, both leaders their day is wrecked.
Both of them want to murder each other now.
Yeah.
I think it's more obvious with Kairi because he almost succeeds.
Yep, but yeah, it also reveals a lot of doubts with Kairi.
Mm-hmm. And I think
Kaichiro,
with
at the
Keiichiro,
moment, it seems a little more like he's just mad at losing like he did. Because, to be fair, he did lose big time this time around.
Yeah, thrown through a wall.
Yeah, thrown through a wall, just utterly shamed by Red in a fight, and then he managed to snag one of the Versus vehicles, and then lost it, despite the fact that it initially seemed like he had the superior one.
But I want to talk about the specific things they say to each other and why it bothers both of them.
Yep.
Keishiro's statement to Kairi is probably more obvious because Kairi explains
Definitely.
why it bothered him.
Yep.
This is the doubt I've been having this whole time, and then
Yep, there's
you
clearly
just said it.
some part of him that does not want to be a Phantom Thief, or also sees it as being wrong.
And there's another thing. Do you think that line would have worked on Toma or Umika?
Maybe Umika, but at the same time, the way Umika works, it doesn't seem like she's necessarily bothered by it, because
Yeah, because
even as a Phantom Thief, she's been fine with, helping the cops out from time to time.
Yeah, she's still an upstanding citizen. She does everything she can to help other people.
Yeah, she does what she can to help people, and being a phantom thief is just a tool for that, so I don't think it bothers her. Meanwhile,
Toma, it doesn't
Nope.
work for obvious reasons.
Nope, not at all. He's fine with it. He's down with it.
If a sentence starts with, "Do you really think bringing Aya back is worth?" the answer is yes.
Yep.
But I kind of want to point out that just go back to the difference in their relationship with the people they're trying to bring back. Umika's bringing back her friend who she was probably not upset with when she died. Tom was bringing back his fiance who were going to go shopping for their wedding. Kyrie's bringing back somebody he was fighting with.
Yep. And
So he's already, I would say, you could reasonably interpret that he's already a little iffy on bringing his brother back.
yeah, and even then, like, his brother in that conversation does seem to sort of be the one in the right, just from sort of the way that scene's set up.
Because he gets shoved into a pile of garbage cans.
Yeah, Kyrie is clearly the punk there.
He's wearing a hoodie. He's bleached his hair blonde.
Yeah, and his brother's clearly the caring one who, whatever Kyrie's done, he will forgive him for that.
And I think that's part of the reason it hits Kyrie so harshly is because not only is what he's doing quote unquote wrong, again, stealing from Ganglars, but not only is what he's doing is wrong, it's not clear that he believes that the result is even worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to keep that in mind for events that will unfold in the future that I cannot refer to quite yet.
Yeah, and so I think he's not exactly sure about bringing back his brother, but he's also probably just doubting himself in general, because if he was a punk before, then, like, what's to say he's doing the right thing now?
Now he's a punk with a gun.
Yeah.
He's not more right, he's more dangerous.
Yep.
But I also want to talk about Keiichiro, because I think Kyrie might have, pushed a button that people might not pick up on with Keiichiro.
Yeah, saying, like, we became Phantom Thieves because we had to. That one seems like it could be interesting.
I think it may have made Keiichiro realize Keiichiro's doing whatever he has to do to take down the Ganglars. Hearing Kyrie say we're doing this because we have to really drives home the point that they're doing what Keiichiro would do if he was in their position. Keiichiro likes to think that he can keep himself above all the terrible influences that make you do crime. I'm trying to be as sarcastic as I can because Jesus Christ. But I think that really brings to the surface that he knows that if he just has a couple of bad days in a row, he's going to be out on the streets without police sanction killing Ganglars anyways.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, he is an empathetic person, as we've talked about before. So, like, here's this person who has been forced into this situation.
Man, can you imagine where the only crime you've dealt with to this point is like demons who have no concept of remorse or sympathy, and suddenly having to deal with the very real problem of human criminals?
Yeah, here's just a person who is sort of doing the right thing, just in the wrong way. So, maybe Keiichiro could see them as criminals for theft and whatnot, but yeah, just hearing that, it's suddenly like, oh, fuck.
Also, this is just a little footnote, but I think this fight was a lot meaner than a lot of people were expecting.
And to be fair, like, the Red shooting Ichigo and the gut part was actually, like, in the preview from the previous episode.
Right, but just, like, the way they destroy each other psychologically, almost inadvertently. They're just saying what comes to mind. It just completely destroys them.
But also, Red just punching the hell out of Ichigo is also pretty mean.
I think people were expecting just, like, a cool duel, and we kind of got one, but most of it was just an uncomfortable beatdown.
Yep. Ichigo had a chance for, like, 20 seconds, maybe 30.
Mm-hmm. And then Kyrie got mad, and there was no going back. But that brings me to my next point, in that this show seems to be built on subversion of expectations.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little harder for me to pick up because I don't watch Sentai, but I know enough to know a couple of general stereotypes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the Blue, the second in command, the Lancer, is supposed to be calm, cool, and collected, And Toma certainly seems that way at first, doesn't he?
Oh yeah, at first.
And then episode 3 happened, and it became clear that Toma is not going to rein in Kairi ever.
Nope.
This episode, he says, let's hold off for a second, but that's not really reining everyone in. He was trying to save himself, I think.
Yeah, that's just him looking at this big fucker with 2 safes and being like, it'd be bad if we fucked with that, huh?
Yeah, he's making a tactical decision. He's not trying to, empathically connect with any of his team members and calm them down as they're being incredibly emotional. It's just like, nope. Nope.
Just pointing and saying, nah, man. Nah, no.
How about we don't?
I think just
there's
like...
a similar... Go ahead.
The fact that the team is divided in the first place is a pretty big subversion.
Yeah.
Because
we have
2 Reds, both of which operate very differently, and then just 2 members in each, and they go up against each other as well as the demon hell monsters.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a lot of unity with the Pat Rangers, not as much with the Lupin Rangers, and of course, both teams will help each other sometimes, but for the most part, no, they do not help each other like a normal Sentai team would.
This also creates weird problems where, the Lupin Rangers have 1 emotional center, but the Power Rangers have 2.
Mm-hmm.
And the Lupin Rangers' emotional center is ignored. No one's looking after Rumika. No one's taking care of her.
Yep.
My daughter is in a dangerous situation and no one is helping her.
Yep. Meanwhile,
with the Power Rangers, Sakia is the more traditional type of emotional center and how he interacts with everyone. But Tsukasa is the one that's pulling the actual work, and she does so through being, I don't want to say harsh because that's a bit much, but by being stern.
Yeah, she
keeps them together through discipline and not emotional connections.
If anything, she's the closest thing to the usual blue of the show.
Yeah. I don't know enough about the other colors to know what their stereotypes are. There probably aren't stereotypes for yellow and green.
Isn't Green Ranger the 6th Ranger normally, or is that a different
I think he was just that in Zero Ranger, which became Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Okay.
Normally the 6th Ranger is a special color.
Yeah.
Like gold, silver.
Okay.
Something to help them stand out from the others.
Yeah.
And in Zero Ranger, the Green Ranger had gold armor on. He had gold highlights along with his green suit.
But as for Pink, I don't know. You can't even necessarily call Pink the Girl Ranger because there are actually more than one, even in older Sentais.
Actually, I'm not sure how common that is.
Okay,
because in Power Rangers, when they adapted Zero Ranger, the Yellow Zero Ranger was male.
Oh, yeah,
the Yellow
that's
Power
right.
Ranger was female.
Okay, yeah. So originally, Pink was the girl one, I guess.
Yeah.
I do forget that even not watching Power Rangers, my only real knowledge of Sentai comes from that, so...
We're still nerds. We're still on the internet. People still talk about Power Rangers and Sentai. We've absorbed it.
Yep. Should watch original Sentai if I'm ever going to, just because I'm interested in that.
I might want to watch Zero Ranger at some point. Side by side with Power Rangers to see how they change.
Yeah.
But even there's so many different kinds of Red Rangers. There are multiple, stereotypes for them.
Okay, so it does kind of work then for Red and Ichigo then, because Red's the very laid-back leader. Ichigo's pretty serious, but also, again, empathetic.
And yet, if you look at them, Red is laid back and cool, but he doesn't connect emotionally with any of his team members. They've made promises to abandon each other if the going gets rough. He cannot talk to Umika without making fun of her.
Yep.
He tries to talk Blue down from suicidally charging into Global Police Headquarters. All he can do is talk about himself.
Yep.
Meanwhile, the Red Power Ranger seems to be haughty, full of himself, doesn't care about anyone else, but you see him talk to any of his team members for longer than 10 seconds, and he clearly cares about them.
Yep.
And wants to help them and interact with them and learn from them. This show is not enough to just subvert the expectations of old Sentai. They're subverting their own expectations.
Yep.
As a Versus series, Up to this point, it just seemed like a way to do cooler fight scenes. Though the Rangers are fighting each other now, that adds more interesting stuff to the choreography. Then this episode happens, and Red tries to murder Ichigo.
Yep.
It becomes really clear really quickly that this is not just a fun thing. This is going to be a part of the drama and the tension. There's a real chance that one of the Rangers is going to be dead, and it's going to be one of the other Rangers' fault. Even things like the VS vehicles. Like, it's absolutely... It's a small thing, but it's still a neat thing to have Kairi run off with a bike and Ichigo run off with the Cyclone, if only for a little bit.
Yeah, because by the end, Red's got them both. I can't imagine that'll stay true forever, but still.
Just to show you that, like, even our own expectations that we can set up through toy catalogs and next episode previews, not going to stick around forever.
Yep.
We are not afraid to give the land team the air vehicles. And even just the opposition itself, it's really just between the Reds, possibly Lupin Blue. Yumika doesn't care.
Yeah.
She thinks it's neat.
To be fair, Tuma and Tsukasa do seem like they end up fighting a little more frequently. They usually end up against each other.
I appreciate that, one, because it prevents, like, oh, let's pair the girls off.
Yeah.
But also it's because, like, they're the two that might oppose it the most. I think Tsukasa cares less than Toma.
Yeah.
She cares, one, because Keiichiro cares. And she cares about Keiichiro. She's perfectly willing to work with Lupin Yellow.
Yep.
She demands their help at the fourth episode.
Yep.
And in the first episode, Saki is like, well, Lupins are taking out the Ganglars. Isn't that great? So let's work for us. And then he died. Because Keiichiro came after him.
Yeah, shame Keiichiro just fell through the roof on top of Sakia, killing him instantly.
But yeah. Subversion was the main thing I wanted to talk about with this episode.
Alright.
One of the problems with this episode is that all the character development is on the surface, so that there was less for me to talk about.
Yep.
It's really obvious what happened here.
Yeah.
As we've said 1,000 times, Kairi tried to murder someone.
Yep. I'm not kidding when I say clotheslined him through a wall. Arm on neck and everything.
Poor suit actor.
I hope that only took one take.
Oh god, I hope... At the very least, I hope they used the last take. I hope it's not a situation where they did 20 takes and then used the first one.
But, if we're done with that, I'm sure you'll be delighted to know I don't have much to say about Bumbolt.
We should probably talk about the Ganglars before I go into my stuff.
Oh yeah, because they're usually short, sweet, and to the point, so yeah, we'll do that
He's
from now on.
not done yet.
Yeah, he's definitely not done yet, but also he didn't turn big, and, like, his big thing is that he's the one who runs away.
The Joestar family technique.
He's either Joseph or Hull Horse, but either way, doesn't have anything that makes either character interesting.
God, that whole horse thing's kind of on the nose, isn't it? Well, I guess when he got a partner, he just ran instead of trying to work with him like Whole Horse does.
He's reverse Hull Horse. He'll run if there is someone there.
God, I love that scene so. I love that scene where Bumbolt runs away, and then Destro's like, alright, Bumbolt, we got them.
Bumbolt? Oh, for fuck's sake.
Son of a bitch!
And again, I just love the fact that Sakia tries a thing, and as Destra's like, alright, Bumbolt, it's time to... Oh, for God's sake. He then just casually fucking tosses Sakia.
It's like he's trying to feed Bumbolt kills to, like, raise his level or something.
Bumbolt, you're too under-leveled. You're gonna die.
I know you're the est of our Ganglar group.
Your growth rates are amazing, Bumbolt. Just fight something.
I also want to talk about how we've seen Destra do several things, none of which are either of his collection powers.
Yep, that's just his hammer.
He teleports in, he has a hammer that shoots missiles and is a hammer, plus he can summon golems.
Yep.
None of those are his collection piece, because we never see the safes glow.
He has not tipped his hand in the slightest. And that's kind of terrifying.
What can the collection piece even be at this point?
God.
Like, what can it possibly do to make him scarier?
He just opens one of the doors, and it's just the fucking Death Note.
I was gonna go for a different anime reference of The World. Oh god, I hope one of the Ganglars can stop time. It just screws it up constantly.
He can stop time, but only when he has his breath held.
He can stop time, but only when no one is looking. The JoJo references aren't going to stop.
Oh yeah, they're
They
not.
use stands, basically. It's
Honestly,
weird because they're nothing like stands, because they don't stand beside them, but
no.
the whole disparate power thing really makes them seem like stands.
And honestly, considering Part 5 is happening at the moment, I'm surprised I haven't made more references to it during these past 3 episodes.
Yeah, this show made me suddenly get back into JoJo. I finally started reading Part 6.
I really gotta read, like, all of the parts that have already been made into an anime. Partially just out of spite, but also because I do kind of want to see what the differences between the anime and the manga are. But
I
I'm
think for
watching
the
the anime
most
first,
part,
fuckers.
that's fine. If anyone gives you shit, tell them to fuck off.
I will dunk you.
If anything, the anime expands on the manga more,
Mm-hmm.
especially by fixing small plot holes. But this isn't a JoJo
Yeah.
podcast yet.
Oh god. Well,
Um,
let's get away from that before it consumes us, because it will.
So, any predictions?
Okay,
I think we
so
skipped this last episode.
I think we purposely didn't really do them because we didn't have a lot to predict. But yeah, that thing about the collection pieces being different, I don't know. I've got the feeling that the collection can actually change to a certain extent. Because the Ganglar pieces are definitely different from the human collection pieces, just sort of in terms of their power. Because, like, I don't know, I can't really describe it, but
All the Ganglar collections do something different, and all the VS vehicles do the same thing.
something like that. But I don't know, like, I want to say tone, but that is absolutely 100% not the right word. But, like,
Aesthetic?
aesthetic, yeah, maybe aesthetic, a little bit of that. Just the way their powers work, and also the fact that, like, cops all seem to have cop-themed collection pieces.
Yeah, they've got 3 cruisers and a bike.
Now, obviously that isn't 100% correct because, like, the bike and the helicopter were out of, their purview for some time. And despite not being with the thieves, the Cyclone is still very thief-themed, so I am wondering how that works out, but I definitely feel like there's something to do with that collection. I think it can actively change. Other than that, I can't really think of anything that, like, we haven't already mentioned, like with Kaiichiro's
I'm not gonna make you predict Amika's character development for the 3rd time.
Yeah, I still can't figure it out yet, though. I've still mentioned what I think is going to happen with her. That hasn't changed. We already mentioned, Kaiichiro's thing, the way he reacted, so there's that. So I don't think I really have anything too much to predict.
What do you think's gonna happen to Bumbolt?
I think he's going to die, get big, and then die.
But who's gonna kill him? The Lupins, the police, Daestra? Who's gonna get to him first?
Well, if it happens next episode, it's probably going to be the thieves if they've been trading it back and forth. But, we talked about subverting expectations. I can't be entirely certain about that, because we could start with the Lupin Kaiser next episode, and then maybe that one will lose.
It's like, I think a couple of people were upset about episode 4, Pot Kaiser losing, just because it's like, you already did the stock footage to bring it out, and now we gotta sit through more stock footage.
I can kind of get that part of the argument, but
I think it's super important that Pot Kaiser is summoned and then loses, because now all bets are off, as you said in that episode.
Yeah, now you never know. Like, it seems like the next episode is going to be, like, focused around sort of a little bit of redemption for Kaiichiro, so who knows? He could just have a really good day next time.
Anything could happen at any moment.
Yep. One other thing I noticed in the intro is Ice Dude is walking alone in the intro, so I'm gonna guess might not actually be working under Degranio. That is a prediction based entirely just on seeing the OP, but seen it a few times. He had a pretty distinct shot.
Also, I just remembered the shot of him taking a bite out of ice came from this episode, not episode 2.
Okay. Yeah, I think you mentioned
So
that
I
when
was
we watched
thinking of
it.
this. Yeah. Still, God.
What a weirdo.
Just walks right by. Chomp with my front teeth. This ice that's not melting in my hand.
Alright, so yeah. That's predictions then. I think I'm just about done.
Anyways, if you want to send us an email, we are still LupinRecap vs PatReview@gmail.com.
You can
Again,
mock
email us.
whoever was wrong about Gauche's safe color.
Especially if it's me, because I'm the only one with access to that email account, I think.
I could be owned all the time, and Loka might not be telling me.
I'm protecting you from all the mean trolls. If you want to follow us on Twitter, we are at LRVSPR. I tweeted a couple of things that weren't episode announcements, but that's probably going to be it. Don't expect any more tweets. My personal Twitter is at Lokamasi. Fefner's is at Fefner Masamune.
Yep.
And with that, we will see you in the next episode.
Adieu.